leads you into exactly what does Netanyahu want. We know behind this is his own future. He's he's being challenged in Israel itself by the Israeli people. If the war actually allows him to continue as leader, if we want to be blunt about it, it does beg the wider question is whether both sides actually want to come to the table. This is something that Antony Blinken has raised concerns about as well. Blinken did say this is the best but probably the last opportunity for peace. And, I try to focus on Iran. Iran is still poised to launch a retaliatory attack against Israel after killing senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. I think it was wrong for Netanyahu to do this to David Lammy, partly because the last time Iran attacked, the first time ever, in fact, a state attack against Israel, it was actually British forces, the RAF, that stepped up to support Israel, along with America as well. So given this wider picture, the geopolitics of it, I would hope that the Israeli government and the Israeli prime minister would keep its door open to anybody in the West wanting to lean into this and provide solutions.
Two big stories there, of course, are these ongoing talks about the ceasefire. We know that Antony Blinken is there making his 9th visit since the Hamas attacks on the 7th of October and the subsequent war. Today, at least 10 Palestinians are being killed by an Israeli strike on a school housing displaced families west of Gaza City. The Israeli military says it struck a Hamas militant base embedded inside the school. And we've also learned that the Israeli Defence Forces recovered the bodies of 6 hostages in an overnight operation in Gaza. Tobias, I'll come to you first. What's your reaction to these latest developments and your assessment of this latest attempt at a ceasefire?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Antony Blinken arriving back in the Middle East shows this effort to secure a ceasefire and release hostages is serious. But we've been here before. This is his 9th visit, and we've been so close to agreement, and then talks fall apart because there are huge gaps between both sides. Securing a 6-week ceasefire is actually the simple part. That's phase 1. Downing the weapons, stopping the airstrikes, allowing aid to get in. The more complicated questions then are posed. Who runs Gaza in the long term? For people like myself and many others, Hamas is still seen as a proscribed terrorist organization, given what it did after the 7th of October. Everybody sees that. They should be not put in charge of the long-term governance of Gaza. And then what are the wider security arrangements around the Gaza Strip itself? Israel wants to keep a military presence in Gaza itself. That won't be acceptable to those on the other side of the table. And then there's this so-called Philadelphia corridor, the strip between Gaza and Egypt, which also Israel wants to control. And of course, the longer term issue that I've raised many, many times, but we just continue to ignore it, Iran's proxy influence that sits behind so much of the instability across the Middle East.
Thank you, Tobias. Jeevan, what's your take on where things are going? I mean, as Tobias said, Antony Blinken is out there, really putting his shoulder to the wheel. We know that David Lammy has been out there as well, although was snubbed by Benjamin Netanyahu over Britain's sort of position on the International Criminal Court ruling. How optimistic do you feel realistically that we can make progress? I mean, America might be gung-ho, Britain might be gung-ho, but if the leaders of Hamas and the leaders in Israel aren't gung-ho, there's a problem, right?
I'd say I'm hopeful that we can achieve peace. Look, it's horrific what we've seen, tens of thousands of deaths, certainly the prospect of a wider regional war that could lead to many, many more. It's important that we do retain hope and work what we can do to get towards peace. It's why Keir spoke to Abbas and Netanyahu just after he was elected as prime minister. It's why David is in the region at the moment, trying to do what we can to ensure that we do get to peace.
What do you think about him being snubbed by Netanyahu?
I'm not sure exactly what occurred in that situation. All I know is that David is doing everything he can do to ensure that we do get peace there, a peace that starts with an immediate ceasefire, the release of hostages, the flowing in of aid, and then, of course, a peace negotiation that ends with a two-state solution. There are clearly lots of difficult issues at hand, certainly issues that we aren't going to resolve on this radio program today. That will be a matter for Israel and the Palestinian people.
Okay. Tobias, what do you think about Netanyahu snubbing the foreign secretary? How problematic is that?
Well, it leads you into exactly what does Netanyahu want. We know behind this is his own future. He's up he's being challenged in Israel itself by the Israeli people. If the war actually allows him to continue as leader, if we want to be blunt about it, it does beg the wider question is whether both sides actually want to come to the table. This is something that Antony Blinken has raised concerns about as well. Blinken did say this is the best but probably the last opportunity for peace. And, you know, I try to focus on Iran. Iran is still poised to launch a retaliatory attack against Israel after killing senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. I think it was wrong for Netanyahu to do this to David Lammy, partly because the last time Iran attacked, the first time ever, in fact, a state attack against Israel, it was actually British forces, the RAF, that stepped up to support Israel, along with America as well. So given this wider picture, the geopolitics of it, I would hope that the Israeli government and the Israeli Prime Minister would keep its door open to anybody in the West wanting to lean into this and provide solutions.
In a very constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, he confirmed to me that Israel accepts the bridging proposal, that he supports it. It's now incumbent on Hamas to do the same. And then the parties, with the help of the mediators, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, have to come together and complete the process of reaching clear understandings about how they'll implement the commitments. From here, I'm going on to Egypt and Qatar. And these are our two critical partners in this effort to get the ceasefire agreement over the finish line, to get the hostages home, to put everyone on a better path to lasting peace and security. And so I look forward to consulting with President Sisi, with the Emir, Sheikh Tamim, with other critical colleagues in both countries on the immediate steps ahead, and in particular, what needs to be done to ensure that Hamas comes along. And the bridging proposal was to try to close some gaps or to clarify different parts of this agreement that needed clarification. Now, what the challenge is, besides Hamas agreeing to the bridging proposal, is to make sure that there are clear understandings on how the different parties are going to make good on their commitments. I should have mentioned as well, Prime Minister Netanyahu committed to sending his senior expert team back to either Doha or to Egypt to try to complete this process. For example, about polio, because we very much share the concern about the possibility of its reemergence, and we've been working on a detailed plan to make sure that those who need to be vaccinated against it can get vaccinated, and we're working with the Israeli government on that, and I believe that we'll be able to move forward with a plan to do that in the coming weeks. It is urgent, it is vital. Yes, it did. It did, and this has been also something that's been a deep and ongoing concern for us. Violence, intimidation as well of the Palestinian community in the West Bank. There was an incident, as you know, just a few days ago that I think has galvanized attention from the Israeli government, and that is critical. And we look to see action taken to prevent this kind of violence, action taken to hold people who are responsible for it accountable. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.